Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the Synthstrom Deluge. The idea of this tutorial is to show you the basics of this instrument. You'll be barely scratching the surface of this amazing device, but what you will learn is how to get some notes into it and play them back, and at the end of this tutorial you should have a good grasp of the three main work areas: the track, the song and the arranger, what they're used for and how they interact. This will give you a good foundation to build upon. This is a video for beginners, but even if you've had the Deluge for a while, you might pick up some tips from this video. I certainly learnt a lot just by making it. I haven't had the device for very long, but I did the usual thing, jumped in head first without the manual, but now I've gone back to basics because there were a few things I'd missed in my haste. Just to say that this is the Deluge as at the 9th of March 2019, running firmware version 2.1.2. I came a bit late to the party, and there have certainly been a lot of improvements made since this device was first offered for sale a couple of years ago. I'm guessing the guys at Synthstrom Audible over there in New Zealand will be adding even more changes in the fullness of time, and I'll probably need to make another video when they do. Let's talk about connections first of all. You'll need to make sure Deluge is charged up or being charged by a USB connection. I actually use a Boss power adapter PSC-230E, that's the one I use for my guitar pedal board. But you've got to be very careful if you use a main supply, as it must be 9 to 12 volts, centre negative, and provide at least 500 milliamps. If in doubt, probably use the USB option. The battery is fully charged when this LED here glows green, and it's yellow when it's charging, and I think it flashes red when it's about to die. So you can probably see here, that's where my Boss power supply is plugged in. Okay, but the battery does last quite a long time. I think it's about 5 or 6 hours if you're lucky. All you actually need to hear what you're doing is either a set of headphones plugged into this headphone port here, or a stereo mini jack lead plugged into a speaker system, and that's what I usually do. I just use a little iPod dock when I'm just messing around on it. But you've got a couple of 1/4-inch jack sockets here for plugging into a more serious, more professional setup. Powered monitors or a computer audio interface, that kind of thing, or indeed a PA system. You can plug a MIDI keyboard in. I've got one plugged in here, and you can put notes using that, but I'm not going to use that today. I'm going to do everything on the machine in a very simple way so that you can see it is a complete standalone solution. So when you switch the Deluge on, that's what I've just done here, this is what you see. The track light is lit, so you're in track view, and you can see a naught in the display here, and that's showing you that you're using Synth naught. That's the kind of default sound, which is called rich saw bass, kind of a synth bass sound. The scale button is lit, and it's set to C major. So if I play these audition stroke section pads, these ones here on the right, from bottom to top, those 8 pads are going to give me the 8 notes of the scale of C major. And you can see as I play each note, look at the display: C, 3, D3, E3, F3, and so on. Okay, so you've got the MIDI note name coming up as you play those pads. Other notes are available. If I use this knob here, which I call the up and down knob, and you can see these up and down symbols to the right hand side. In the manual, they just refer to it by this graphic, but I'm going to call it the up and down knob. So if I scroll down, just keep pressing this lowest audition pad. You can see it goes much lower. Come back to where I was. You know if you're in the default position because the pad is red down here, and this mauve or purple pad is the octave. And I can also go up as well. So all the notes you need are there, but they're not all on screen at the same time. Now, if I press the scale button, so it's not lit, and play the audition pads, now you can hear the notes go up chromatically, so that you've got every note in music, but obviously you're not going to get a full octave. You'd you'd have to keep using the up and down knob to get the other notes. But everything is there for you. Let's just press the scale button again so it's lit. Now, to the right of the synth button here is a button labelled kit, and that means drum kit. If I press that button and it lights, the synth button goes out. You can see I've got a 0 in the display, and that means that the drum kit that I'm going to hear is the default drum kit, which is an 808, a Roland TR-808 typical. And as I press the pad, you can hear the various sounds, and they come up in the display as I press the pad: kick, snare, hi-hat closed, hi-hat open, and so forth. And you've got little abbreviations in the display. Now, there are more notes available, so if I press this top pad, it says clap, now it's crash, cowbell, tom low, tom medium high, and so forth, and you do eventually run out of notes because there aren't an infinite amount of notes for the drum kit. Okay, so kit and synth, you understand those now. We're still in our track view. Now, if I press the button above the track button, which is the song button, press that, track button goes out, song button lights up. I'm now in what we call song view. And you've only got the top row with a light or lights on the mute launch. That's this column here is called the mute launch buttons, and this pad is here. I keep saying button, I should say pad. These are all pads, of course, and these are all buttons. So I should say you've got a light on the mute launch and the audition, and nothing happens if you play them, but you can see the mute launch changes from red, which is muted, and green, which is launch. Nothing will play at this point because there are no notes in the device. If you click the song button again, it starts to flash, and you're now in what we call a arranger view, where only the top row has a green light on the mute launch button. Okay, but if you press the audition section pad on that row, on this row here, okay, you can hear that I've got the synth sound. I'm actually going to go back to the track view. I'm going to press song button again, and now I'm going to press the track button, and I'm going to change from synth to kit. Okay, right, I'm now going to go back to the arranger view by pressing song again. Now when I press this top pad here, you can hear the snare drum of the kit. That means that this top row of the arranger view is now linked to that drum kit. Okay, and it's a very important concept to grasp, and we'll come back to that. Now I'm going to press song again to go back into song mode, and then press track. You can't go directly from the arranger view to the track view unless you've actually got something in the arranger view. Now we're going to make a song now. It won't be anything earth-shatteringly brilliant, just a simple tune with a few tracks. I don't expect Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm going to be inputting everything with steps rather than playing. Usually I would use a MIDI keyboard, or I would use the keyboard mode on this. If I just go back to synth view quickly and press this little keyboard button here, okay, now I can actually play these pads like a keyboard, and I can record using them, but I'm not going to in this, but just to say that you can do that. So I'm going to press that button again, and I'm going to press the kit button, and now we're ready to start inputting notes into our drum kit. I mean, what I'm trying to do here is keep things really basic and simple for you, okay? I'll try and timestamp this with the various things that I'm talking about so you don't get bored. This is purely if you've got the thing fresh out the box and you want to, like a worked example, that's what this is really. But like I said, I certainly picked up a load of things just by doing this for you, things that I'd missed initially. So we're going to record a simple drum track. Let's input some notes into the drum kit track. So in the track view, the track button is lit. I'm going to press the following pads left to right on the lowest row of the main grid. I'm going to press 1, 5, 9 and 13. And you can hear as I press those pads, you heard the sound of the kick drum, which is over here. So this is the row for the kick drum, the bass drum if you like, and it lit up in pink. Okay, now if I press play up here, you'll hear this looping round. And no surprises, it's your typical 4 on the floor bass drum, kick drum pattern. And you can see the song pointer moving across here, so you can see where you are in your 1 bar pattern, like that. Okay, press play again. There is no stop button. Play is play and stop, which is sensible if you think about it. Let's press the play button again. I'm going to hear this continuous loop. Now this black knob up here is the tempo knob, and if I turn it to the right, 1 click, you'll see it jumps to 1, 2, 6. But turn it back 1 click, you'll feel the click. You can't hear it, but you'll feel it as you do it. It jumps up in increments of 6 beats per minute. Now, if you want to make that 1 beat per minute increment, press down on it. You'll hear a solid click. Now, and I turn to the right or the left, it goes up in 1. So we'll keep it on 120 for the moment. So that's your tempo knob. Now I'm going to show you how you zoom in and out. We're going to use this knob here. Now in the manual, this is referred to just by its graphic, this left to right thing here, but I'm going to call it the left-right knob. And if I push down on it, you'll see in the display it says 16th, meaning that the resolution is set so that each pad in the grid represents a semiquaver, a 16th note. If you press down on this knob and turn it to the right, 1 click, it jumps to 32nd. Now you can only see 2 bass drums in the grid screen here because the other notes have fallen off to the right, but you can still see them. If you scroll by turning the left-right knob without pressing down, you'll see the other 2 notes. Scroll back and there's the first 2, and it said bar 1 beat 3 flashes up, bar 1 beat 1 flashes up and then goes back. Anyway, we're going to push down on this knob, turn it to the left, put it back into 16th so we can see all our 4 bass drums. So basically that's beat 1, that's beat 2, that's beat 3, that's beat 4. We're going to have a first look at the song view. You're going to press the song button up here and you can see your new drum track up on the top row. The blue audition section pad on the far right is now lit up in blue, and that is the section colour, and I'll explain this later. Okay, so you've pressed play, the track will loop as before, and if you press the mute launch pad here, it waits to the end of the bar, goes red so you can't hear anything, it's muted, press it again, and then it's audible again. So literally you have to wait for the end of the bar. Now if you don't want to wait for the end of the bar, hold shift as you do that. So that is your drum track in song view up on this top row. So the idea of the song view is to have several tracks, okay, which you can have looping, which you can select either singly or in groups using the section pads over here. This view works a bit like clip view in Ableton Live if you're familiar with that software. So let's go to our arranger, press the song button again so it flashes. Nothing's changed. However, if you press the top left pad on the main grid, this one here, it will light blue, nice bright colour, and you may not be able to see this on the camera, but the pad to its right is lit dimly. Okay, if you press play, you'll hear your 1 bar kick drum, and then the deluge will stop. See? If you press down on the left-right knob to see the resolution, it says second, meaning that each pad is set to show a minim or 2 beats or half the bar if you like. So this pad represents beats 1 and 2 and this pad represents beats 3 and 4. Let's change the resolution by clicking a couple of times to the right there and we go to 8th. Now you can see you've got 8 pads lit up, okay, and if I change the resolution to 16, you see all 16 pads are lit up. If I press play, you'll see the song pointer going from left to right and stopping. So basically you're seeing more and more detail as you zoom in. So let's go back to showing second. So just 2 beats in each pad. As I scroll left to right with the left-right knob, I've got bar 1, beat 1, bar 1, beat 3, bar 1, beat 1, so forth. So the idea with the arranger is to group tracks sequentially to form a linear arrangement. So literally got your song going from left to right until it stops. But a colour-coded view really helps us. Don't worry about that too much. It sounds a bit complicated, but it's very simple. And I'll do more on this later on in this tutorial. Incidentally, this is going to be very long, this tutorial. I'm going to split it up into kind of bite-sized chunks. Right, let's add some more sounds to our drum track. Let's return to our drum track. Now we can go back to our drum track now by pressing the dimly lit pad on our arranger. So this second pad along, if I press it, I go straight back to my track, my drum track. There are my 4 bass drums. Otherwise you've got to go via the song view, which is a bit of a rigmarole. You can't enter the track view directly from the arranger view by pressing track button. If I go back to arranger view, if I press track, nothing happens, you see. So I press this dimly lit pad, and there I am back in my bass drum track. So on the drum track now, I'm going to press pads 5 and 13 on the second row up, and this will play snare drums on beats 2 and 4. This is our snare drum row. If I just press this audition pad, I can hear it without inputting anything, but there they are. Press play. There's our bass drum and our snare drum. Now notice how it stopped because I went to this track straight from arrangement. So if I go to song view and press play, it loops as expected. Now go back to track view from that, and it will loop. So basically, if you enter track view straight from arranger view, it will play and stop. If you enter track view from song view, it will play and loop. That's something I missed first time around. Let's put some hi-hats in. This third pad up is our hat C, hi-hat closed. Okay, I'm going to put 16 of these in every single pad. Notice how the hi-hat and the snare and the bass drum have all got different colours, which is handy, isn't it? Now if I press play, very typical corny bass drum beat in 4/4, 4 beats the bar. See the song pointer going across. Let's put a bit of swing into this to make it a bit more interesting and to show you how you do that. This black knob, the tempo knob, is what we use for swing. If I hold shift down, notice shift, my graphics kind of wearing off a bit. I didn't buy this new, but you can see it says shift. If I hold this button down, anything over here that's got that kind of white background is linked to the shift button. And notice the tempo, the swing, if you can see that, you may not be able to see that from here, it's got the white background, so we now press shift. Now if I turn the black, now I'm going to do this way so you can see the display. If I turn it, you see it jumps to 51 now. Go back to 50, it actually says off, because 50 is off, there's no swing. If you go to the left of that, you're into the negative swing, which is a very weird thing. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go up to 56. Now if I press this and play, you've got a little bit of swing. Of course you can do it with it playing, you don't have to have it stopped. I'll show you negative swing, that's very weird. Sounds horrible, doesn't it? So take it past the off position, the middle position, up to 56. We've got a nice bit of swing that our hi-hats are demonstrating. Press play again to stop. So we've got our drum kit running nicely. Let's go back to our song view. Now you can see all the pads are lit because we've got hi-hats in there. There's no gaps, everything is used up. And that track, which has got our drum track, which has got 3 different items, bass drum, snare drum, hi-hats. When we go to song view, it's compressed from 3 rows down to 1. See? And it's actually picked the hi-hat colour because that's the thing we've got more of. I guess that's how it works. See, press play and your drum pattern will loop. Now if you enter the arranger view by pressing the song button again so it flashes, okay, and if I press play, now you see we've got our drum pattern, a complete drum pattern, and it's playing and stopping just with this one little pad lit up here, and of course it's what we call the tail pad, this dimly lit pad to its right. So let's go back to song by pressing the song button again, and back to track, and now we've got our looping drum pattern. Notice it's looping because we went via the song view. If I'd have gone straight from arranger view to track view, it wouldn't loop, it'd just play and stop. Let's put a bass track in now. How about synth bass? I'm going to go back to song view because this is how we create new tracks. Now, there's our drum track. If I press any pad in this empty second row, okay, I'll do that. It jumps to track view. This is a blank track, so nothing is in the main grid. I call this the main grid, this 16 by 8 pad grid, and it's defaulted to synth and to scale and to our synth naught. Okay, this is the default synth for the Deluge, and it's called rich saw bass. It's just a typical synth bass using a saw wave. Nice and basic. It actually sounds pretty good though. I mean, this thing, you can add loads of effects, you can mess around with the parameters of all the synth sounds, but I'm not going to do that. That's been done elsewhere on YouTube and been done very well, and you can find loads of videos on that. But basically I'm just going to use the sound as it is out the box. There's our major scale. So the rich saw bass synth naught is the default synth for Deluge, as the 808 is the default kit. Now if you press play at this point, you'll still hear your drum track looping. If you return to the song view, you'll see that your second row from the top now has the far right pads illuminated, and you'll see the main grids of this illuminated in white as the track runs, because there are no notes in this track. If you go to the arranger view, okay, if I just press stop, and if I press this second pad down, this audition pad, you can hear that track now is now linked to that synth bass sound, as this track is linked to the drum kit. And you hear the snare there, and you hear that C note of the rich saw bass. Let's go back to track view, and we're going to go via the song. So we've got our blank canvas for our synth bass, and we're going to enter in some notes for our synth bass. Let's press every other pad on this bottom row, all the odd numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. Press play. And we've got a running quaver bass line, okay, with a single note of C. So it's not, going to be any crazy. This just something very simple, so you can see what's going on. Obviously, you can use all the pads in it into other notes. I'll just show you that briefly. If I just sort of change these. Okay, can be done, but I'm going to just actually I can undo this by doing this. Look, undo, undo, undo. Just keep doing it until I get back to what I had. Okay, so the back button up here is the undo button. All right, but obviously if you make a mistake when you're putting these notes in, just press the pad again and it goes out. So it's very simple to do, and they actually feel really nice, these pads. They're not hard on your fingers, so you can work for hours on end and you don't get sort of worn out with sort of sore fingers. I've had some things in the past where I've actually really got sore fingers, so these pads feel lovely, got a lovely sort of spring to them. So our running bass line, and you can hear that the drum track is running together with the synth track and looping round. Now if you go to the song view, second row is now illuminated to reflect our synth bass, and the audition section pad is lit blue, the same as the drum track. That means both these tracks are in the same section. Again, I haven't explained this yet, but I will do later. In the arranger view, you can now press the first pad of the second row, Okay, and that's inputted our bass, synth bass pattern into the arranger view. So I press play, and we've got our synth bass and our drums, one bar, and then they stop. At this point, it's not a bad idea to save your song. I don't think Deluge does an automatic save. If it does, I've missed it. Maybe that's something for the future. Maybe by the time you read this, it will do an automatic save. So I've already got songs saved in the Deluge, but I'll show you what happens when you go to save. I press the save button, not surprisingly, and it flashes, and you can see it says 5. That means that's the next available song I can save to, so I'll use that. And press save again, you'll see the graphic go around here, it says done, and then it's done, it's saved. Now if I went to save that again, suppose I made some changes, notice it flashes 5A, that means it would save to location 5A, which is not the same as 5, it's kind of a sub section for 5, it means I'd still have my 5, and I'd have my 5A, so if I went on into 5A and messed it up, I could go back to 5. I'm not going to say because I haven't made any changes. Press back, and then we're back into our arranger view, and we've got our 2 tracks done. By the way, obviously you need an SD card in. It's here, probably can't see it because it's very close, it's obviously pushed into the machine, but you can't do anything unless you've got an SD card in, and I think you get a 16 gig card with the Deluge. I think you can use up to 64 gigabyte card, I'm not sure about that. But anyway, you will need an SD card, otherwise you won't be able to use your instrument. I think the internal RAM is about 64 megabytes, so obviously that can take so much, but it takes sounds off the card all the while, so you definitely need the card in there. Let's put some chords in. I know this tutorial is getting quite long, so I'm going to do these chords and then I'm going to stop, and then we'll have a break and we'll do another part. So back to song view, press the song button again so it's solid, and I'm going to press the third row, this empty one underneath the synth. This is the drum track, this is the synth track, so press this pad and I'm taking into track view, blank canvas. If I press the audition pads, we can hear synth number 1. Now remember, if I show you, go back to song, go back to synth, this pattern, right, so 0 is the rich saw bass. So if I go back to the new track, now it says 1, so that's a different synth, that's the next one by default. So this is synth 1, which by default in this way it's the sync bass. Now I've already got a bass sound, so I don't want another bass sound, so I want to change the sound for this. And it's dead easy to do. This black knob right in the middle next to the display is called the select knob, and if I turn the knob to the right, every click takes me to a new synth patch. Now if I play a pad as I do that, play an audition pad, you can hear the different sounds. Actually I'm going to take a shortcut and go right the way up to 71, because I happen to know that on 71 I've got a rather lovely lovely Fender Rhodes. By the way, you can play more than one pad at a time here. So you can play chords on the right, and you can record in real time using these pads if you want to. So I've got a Fender Rhodes, and it's synth patch number 71. I think at the moment you've got 170 synth sounds in this as they are, and you can edit them and save them to different places using the ABC method, same with the songs. I think when it started it had about 90. With my manual, which is version 1.4, there it shows 90, but the latest online manual shows all 170. Okay, so we've got a Fender Rhodes sound, which is great for what I want here. Now what we're going to do on the main grid here, we're going to press the following pads. We're going to create some chords. So I'm going to press pads 1, 3 and 5 for step 1. That's actually a C major chord. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on step 5. So I've got 2 C major chords in here, so a C, E and G note. Okay, and then on step 9 I'm going to press pads 4, 6 and 8, and the same thing for step 13. So I've got 12 pads illuminated. I've got 2 C major chords, 2 F major chords. Now if I run my sequence here by pressing play, I did tell you that it wasn't going to be that exciting to know, but you can hear that I've got 2 C chords, 2 C major chords, 2 F major chords running along with my single C bass note and my drum kit. Now if I go to song view, I can now see my 3 tracks, the drums, synth and the chords. See how the chords are represented by a single illuminated pad on the first, second, third and fourth beats of the bar. And once again my section button is lit blue. So these 3 tracks are all linked to the same section. They're all blue. They're all showing green because they're all playing. I can of course mute them if I want to, and it waits to the end of the bar to change from muted to playing unless I press shift. Okay, now if I go to the arranger view and press the 3rd pad down here, okay, that's now inputted my little Fender Rhodes 1 bar. I've got 1 nicely lit pad, 1 dimly lit. Press play and you get your 1 bar and it stops. I'm sure you got the idea by now. If I press this 3rd pad down in the audition section row, I can hear a C note for the Rhodes sound. So there's my drum kit, that's the snare to represent the kit, synth bass, and it's always a C note. So kit, bass, electric piano. And it's important to understand that each row in the arranger view is linked to a sound. Okay, and even though you might create more than 1 track that uses this sound, you can place these tracks on the same row using different colours. I know that sounds confusing, but I will get to it later and it will all become clear, I promise you. So that's probably a good place to stop this first part of this tutorial. It's longer than I expected. I'm trying to kind of dumb it down. I guess it's because before I retired I was a school teacher, so I'm kind of used to sort of dumbing things down for children. So do excuse me if I'm making this too simple for you, but what I'm trying to do is create something here for you. If you've got the thing fresh out of the box and you want to just have a worked example so you see exactly what you're doing. Like I say, when I first got it, I was pressing pads wildly and getting results, but not really understanding it. Having done this for you, I've learnt loads, and I hope you will too. So I hope you enjoyed this, and you'll see me in the next video.